The situation in Venezuela is really quite complicated, and I'll try to give you my perspective and my opinions on it. I do have a unique perspective because one, I lived in Venezuela as a child, and two, I have various clients from Venezuela. So when I was a child in primary school, I went to the British school in Caracas, Venezuela. I was there for 3 years. My father was an Indian diplomat, so I actually lived in 7 countries and went to school in 7 countries as a child. Eventually I settled in England. I did my training in medicine in England, and currently I'm based in Canada. But I do remember that when I was in Venezuela, and this is in the 80s, Venezuela was a beautiful, prosperous, rich nation. And in fact, being posted to Venezuela was considered to be a really good thing. Now, here in Toronto, I have multiple clients who are Venezuelan. They have sought refuge in Canada from Venezuela, and they describe how sad the situation has become there. A rich, prosperous, beautiful nation has been ravaged by Maduro. So, regardless of how we feel about Donald Trump's actions, there's no doubt that this was not a good guy. It's widely recognized that he had not won the last election. He seized power by force, and in fact, the Canadian government does not recognize him as the true leader of Venezuela. So regardless of whether you feel Trump's actions were justified or not, no one disagrees that he was a bad guy who needed to go. So good riddance for that. However, Trump's actions do open up many other possibilities. There was a time early on in Trump's term that people felt he was just all bluster and no action. We just had to somehow get through these 4 years. Hopefully he would lose the next election. Someone like Gavin Newsom would come along, become the new president, and everything would go back to normal. The problem is that Trump this time around has been all action. And all of a sudden, everything he's been saying about what he perceives as necessary for the national security and interest of the United States, annexation of Greenland, annexation of Canada, gaining control of Mexico, we need to now sit up and just rethink. This guy could just one day, 2 o'clock in the morning, just kidnap leaders of countries and announce that he'll be controlling the country. That's a scary thought. He appears to have no regard for Congress, appears to have no regard for the rule of law, whether domestic or international. That's worrying as well. And he's got this close-knit coterie of people who will agree with him no matter what he does. And so far, no one has been able to hold him accountable for anything. Whether it's tariffs, whether it's foreign policy, whether it's trying to land grab from Ukraine and their natural resources, or whatever he's been suggesting, turning Gaza into a Riviera, no one has really been able to challenge him or hold him accountable to anything. And the scary thing is we've got 3 years left to go. What else would he do in those 3 years? What would we be doing near the end of those 3 years? It's very well known that rulers like him would typically start a war at the end of that term so that elections can't be held. Is he planning an annexation of Greenland next year, Mexico the year after, and Canada the year after that? I sure hope not. But looking at his actions and how erratic, unexpected, and surprising everything is, anything seems possible. The biggest problem I see with the way this was done is I look at the Western Alliance as something which was formed after the World War. We like to see ourselves, United States, Canada, England, France, as nations, allies who destroyed evil in the form of Nazi Germany and are the upholders of democracy, the rule of law. And now we have a situation where 2 countries who are permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, 1 Russia and 2 now the United States, are invading other sovereign countries. The problem with that is that the moral high ground is lost. It's similar to the situation in Gaza. Initially, after that horrendous terrorist attack on the Israeli people, it was absolutely and completely justified to take appropriate retaliatory action and steps. But as it dragged on, as it became increasingly clear that the rule of law, and particularly attempts to uphold innocent life, to avoid loss of innocent life, was not being met, the moral high ground is slipping. It's becoming increasingly difficult for the Western Alliance to say that they have any moral high ground. And I feel that's a problem, because the reason that here in the West we are able to control the markets, control currencies, act like the center of the world when it comes to financial institutions, etc., is because we have trust, because we are the good guys and we have the moral high ground. All this will do is divide power out. China will become more powerful, India will become more powerful, because the West is losing that grip and the United Nations is becoming completely irrelevant. Going forward, let's see what happens from here. I hope something good comes out of it for the Venezuelans. They have suffered a lot. Some degree of privatization of their oil infrastructure will be good for them. They have huge oil resources and they have been really quite inefficient at tapping them. And so if big companies from across the world, be it American companies or British companies like British Petroleum, if those big corporations do come in and help in getting access to those reserves, there's a win-win there for both sides. I don't see that necessarily as a bad thing. But for one country to essentially land grab and just take hold on another country's resources is clearly illegal and wrong. Saying that, I don't think that will happen. What the Canadian administration needs to do, I feel, is more or less exactly what Mark Carney has been doing. Build stronger relations with the British, with the French, because as of today, these are the allies who still hold on to our shared values. And the world today needs some new leadership. And the Canadians, British and French need to provide that leadership to the Western world.